WKS radio station.
With SRN News, I'm Jason Walker. Wildfire that destroyed historic Grand Canyon Lodge continuing now to spread out of control. So far, officials say the fire has destroyed more than 70 structures. Great sadness in and around the nation today. John MacArthur, pastor of Grace Community Church in Sun Valley, California, has died following a battle with pneumonia. He was 86 and was a longtime valued member of the Salem Radio Network family. The investigation continues in Fall River, Massachusetts. 9 people have been killed, dozens more injured in that fire in an assisted living facility. Meanwhile, officials say that many residents are complaining that while firefighters and police were praised for their heroic efforts, they say staff members did little to help the elderly. This is SRN News.
A few years ago, my youngest son had something minor turned into something very major in a matter of hours.
It was Medishare that came through for us, and there was no hassles, there was no problem.
That's what's so wonderful about knowing that you're a part of such an incredible ministry.
Medishare is a biblical approach to healthcare where Christians share each other's medical expenses.
Medishare is a family, a group of people that stick with you through the hardest times of your life.
Medishare isn't insurance. It's a nonprofit ministry over 30 years old, and members have shared over $8 billion of each other's medical bills.
We don't have to spend so much on health insurance. You can focus on supporting other people.
Medishare is affordable.
Medishare is biblical.
Medishare is family.
Join thousands of Christians who can help you save on your health care and support your family when you need it. Call 844-45-BIBLE. 844-45-BIBLE. That's 844-45-BIBLE.
Convenience just got an upgrade. Farmers State Bank of Oakley is excited to announce the opening of our brand new ATM along Highway 40, right next to Sonic Drive-In. Whether you're grabbing a snack or on the go, you can quickly access your cash without the detour. It's banking made easy, right where you need it. Farmers State Bank of Oakley, member FDIC.
Drop a flat in the upper level ridge out west, and a cold front will trigger late afternoon, early evening showers and storms, mostly along and north and east of a line from Idalia to McCook. Some could reach as far south as I-70 and along the Kansas-Nebraska border later in the evening. There is a marginal risk for damaging winds up to 60 to 70 miles per hour, large hail, and some isolated heavy rain. Hot conditions are expected this afternoon with highs in the upper 90s to around 100, south winds at 10 to 20 miles per hour with gusts to 25, and lows tonight drop into lower 60s. Tomorrow and Thursday, a cold front will fully push through. Late day and evening showers and storm chances are again possible with the marginal risk of some severe weather. Much cooler with highs in the upper 70s and low 80s and lows in the upper 50s and low 60s. Then Friday through Sunday, we got the chances for daily showers and storms and warming temperatures into the upper 80s and low 90s. This meteorologist Chris Romick in the NWKS Radio Weather Center.
It's the Biggin, the 50th Annual Grinnell After Harvest Festival this weekend, and we kick it off this Friday night, 8 p.m. with a free concert in the park. NWKS Radio presents the band Sunset Sinners. Thank you to the Grinnell After Harvest Festival Committee, a Nutrien Ag, SNS Seed, Pioneer Feed Yard, Great Western Tire, Osmeyer Farms, and others. Hey, bring your chairs, but I bet you won't use them. This Friday night, the band Sunset Sinners in the Grinnell, Kansas City Park, 8 p.m.
Looking for insurance that actually puts you first? At the insurance agency in downtown Goodland, we're independent, which means we work for you. Whether it's auto, home, crop, or business, we shop top carriers to get you the best coverage at the best price. No pushy sales, just honest advice from people who live right here in your community. Give us a call today at 785-899-5011 or stop by 1020 Main in Goodland, and let's get you covered. The Insurance Agency. Insurance the way it should be.
If you're shopping for a banking institution, visit with Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, and Quinter, Kansas. The Equity Bank is heavily invested in local business and activities contributing in many ways back to their community. Their employees are involved with many organizations and area events. Plus, a lot of experience comes with that staff. You'll find valuable local assistance when you bank at the Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, Quinter, and other locations in Western Kansas. The Equity Bank, member FDIC.
Know someone who struggles to read because of blindness, low vision, or other challenges? The State Library of Kansas can help with free programs such as NFB Newsline and Talking Books. Eligible users can access hundreds of newspapers and magazines with NFB Newsline by phone, mobile app, or smart speaker. Talking Books offers thousands of books and materials too. Stay informed and connected. Learn more at library.ks.gov/newsline. Brought to you by the National Federation of the Blind and State Library of Kansas.
You work hard to provide for yourself and your family, and that's why identity theft is so scary. Not only does it pose a threat to your financial well-being, everything you've worked so hard for, but it's also a danger to your family. Even children can be victims. It's not their money thieves go after, obviously, but their social security number. Fortunately, there's LifeLock. LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, LifeLock will fix it guaranteed or your money back. Act now and save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com. Use promo code NEWS. Terms apply.
Big savings are waiting at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Get a 25 Chevy Silverado 1500 with 0.9% APR for 60 months plus $3,500 trade-in cash. Or choose a 25 GMC Sierra 1500 Turbo Max, 0.9% APR or up to over $7,800 off if you own a GMC or Buick. And don't forget, military members get an extra $750 cash allowance. It's happening now at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Online at hurlchev.com.
You ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4! It's time for the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
I am old and I am white, and I do not understand it in any way, shape, or form.
The High Plains only local sports talk show.
Not this again. Yes, this again.
Broadcasting live on Rocket 102.5 and streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and X.
Who's got it better than us? Nobody!
Covering it all from the preps.
It's an air ball in the Colby Eagles, victorious in Hugoton.
To the pros.
The cheer is hit to left. It's deep, going back. Gurriel. It's gone. He has done it again. His second home run tonight. And the Rockies have come back to take the lead.
The Blitz is presented by Hurl Chevrolet GMC, Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware, and F&B Bank. Along with the Insurance Agency, the Farmer State Bank in Oakley, the Cowboy Corner Express, and Equity Bank of Hoxie, Quinter, and Grinnell.
Let's go to work.
Just trying to turn the corner. Yuki Kawamura moving his feet, got the steal. 4-on-2, keeps his eyes up. Freeman Liberty, showtime.
5 seconds left. Collier, nowhere to go. Filipowski driving. Oh! With the soul. Filipowski saying with your chest. Minix on the baseline to fade away. Oh, wow. For the win. Minix. The crowd goes wild. No, it will not get out. The Dominican dominance comes to an end. The Big Dumper is your Home Run Derby champion for 2025.
I absolutely love how everyone that gets a chance to say the Big Dumper says it. Cal Raleigh, winner of the Home Run Derby last night, beating Junior Caminero of the Rays, who looked like he was going to be the guy early on, but it was an interesting home run derby. If you really didn't watch it last night, it was quite intriguing because Cal Raleigh got into the semifinals of the home run derby because he tied Brent Rooker of the A's with, I think it was 17 home runs, I believe is the correct how many home runs that he had 17 home runs. But then it came down to distance, I think, of longest home runs. The longest home run that she hit. And anyway, his longest home run was like less than a foot, like a couple of inches. I don't know. It was like, it might have been even less than it. It was unbelievable how much further he was. It was not by very much further than Brent Rooker to make it into the semifinals. And then he found his swing going for him there later on in that home run derby and pulled away for the victory because he was, he's a switch hit. He's the first, I think, ever catcher to win the home run derby. I don't know if I think he's the first guy to hit from both sides of the plate. Not the first switch hitter, but the first guy to actually hit from both sides of the plate. Because in the first round, he hit some from the left, he hit some from the right. And then when he kind of figured out that his old man who was throwing to him, another cool story there, was kind of better about hitting his spot when he was swinging from the left-hand side. That's what kind of got him on a roll. And then a cool story with his brother T, who was doing the catching of the pitches from his dad, kind of being his hype man from behind. So behind him, which was pretty cool. I mean, a really neat story of family and baseball. And then just the story of Cal Raleigh and the year that he is having. I mean, he's going to be in the MVP talks. I don't know if he's going to win MVP, but he's going to be in the conversation. He's going to be chasing this home run record. He's got 38 at the midway point, well, a little past the midway point, but he's got 38 home runs so far this year. He's doing a great job in that. So it's a fascinating story. And to see it all kind of come together with his brother and his dad and the home run derby last night was really cool. I didn't think he was going to be the guy that won it. I thought maybe O'Neal Cruz Jr. or Junior Caminero was going to be one of the two guys that got it done. By the way, O'Neal Cruz with a 513-foot just shot out of the ballpark. Longest home run ever hit at Truist Park last night at the home run derby. A very, very, like I said, an interesting night at the home run derby as Cal Raleigh wins, becomes the first catcher to take home the home run crown. But really, I enjoy All-Star Weekend. I think it's unique. I like the different things they do, whether it's Celebrity All-Star Game or the Futures Game, the Home Run Derby. And, of course, tonight it is the official All-Star Game. And it is the best of the All-Star Games. Doesn't take a whole lot to top the other ones, but it is the best of the All-Star Games at this point in time, and that will be tonight. But like I said, last night, Cal Raleigh, the winner of the Home Run Derby. Good Tuesday morning. So glad that you could join us here on the Morning Blitz. It's going to be a toasty one today. Temperatures expected to be in the mid-90s, maybe even hit the triple digits in some spots today. Right now, 67 degrees and mostly cloudy, although there's some sunshine breaking through here at the KKCI studios. But going to be a hot and toasty one today here on the High Plains. Today's program, we got a full show ahead today. Our second segment is going to be a long one. On Friday, we had a conversation on this show about Keisha and their changes to the state basketball tournament, and lots of different things kind of splintered off of that on that show Friday. Well, it was that audio got to Keisha, and Kyle Doporowski reached out and said he would love to join the show and visit with me about the new changes to state basketball. And so Keisha's assistant executive director, Kyle Doporowski, spoke with me yesterday. He couldn't join us live today, but spoke with me yesterday, and I have an interview to play with him talking about the reasons for the changes to the state basketball tournament and the reasons why certain things went down. It still, unfortunately, stinks for Northwest Kansas, especially when it comes to the quarterfinals. But Kyle does a pretty good job of explaining kind of why it is like that, and kind of why changes were made with state basketball tournaments and all that stuff. So Kyle Doporowski is going to join us coming up here in probably about 10 to 15 minutes and visit about the changes to state basketball from Keisha's perspective and why they went about doing things the way they did. So he's our guest today. We'll get some thoughts from Greg Sankey, who spoke at SEC Media Days yesterday, and he had an interesting quote that I want to read to you coming up in segment number 3. And also some ridiculous stuff happening for a high school football coach in the walk-off. So that all coming up here on today's program. As always, the F&B Bank text line is open at 785-899-2222. If you would like to be a part of the program today, you are welcome to do so. Let's see. A couple of text messages here. A couple of things here. NHL is the best, we're talking about all-star games, MLB number 2. Yeah, NHL might have maybe taken the top spot, Jared. You're probably right on that when it comes to all-star games. Especially with that the Four Nations face-off. That's pretty amazing. I will give you that. So yes. So like I said, FB Beck text line at 785-899-2222 if you want to be part of the Morning Blitz here on this Tuesday. Okay, I want to get to, in our first segment of the day, I want to get to a topic that we have had. I don't know. We've touched on this before in other shows, and particularly with guests. We've had this topic brought up, and I think it was, it started out about maybe 2 weeks ago. I was saying, is how important is it for Big 12, and in this case, Big 12 football? We continue to talk about the college football playoff, which there was more discussion on that at SEC Media Days this past weekend. Sorry, not this past weekend. Yesterday, they were having more discussions on that. More on that in segment 3 too. But but I continue to look at it from the Big 12, from the Kansas State perspective. And so the question that I had a couple weeks ago was, how important is it? And is it important for the Big 12 to have a team become like a powerhouse team, a team to become a dominant team, to have your version of Ohio State or your version of Alabama, your version of Georgia, your power team in the Big 12? Maybe that's Kansas State. Maybe that's Arizona State. Maybe it's somebody else we haven't thought of yet. How important is it, and is it needed? And I said, at the time of the 27th, I said, yes, it is important, and I do believe it is needed. And then kind of organically, in conversations with people who follow it, on a much deeper level, I added to that, what's more important, a power team or just the Big 12 earning wins in the college football playoff? And I'm sure the perfect answer would be, well, we need both. We need both teams. We need to have a team that is a powerful football team, or a program become a powerhouse, no matter who that may be, someone that's up there at the top. And then of course also have them get college football playoff wins. But, I don't know if that's going to happen anytime too soon. And once again, it comes down to the fact that the Big 12 has 16 teams that are all pretty even. And when that evenness plays out throughout the course of a season, you are seeing that teams are ending up with a lot of similar records. Yeah, there's like there might be a couple 10-2s, but there's a lot of 9-3s and a lot of 8-4s. And so the teams kind of cannibalize and eat up each other. And I think we're going to see that almost every year in the Big 12. So I think it will be hard for a team to become a power in the Big 12. Not saying it's impossible, but I do believe that it will be hard for a team to do that. But the more I think about this topic and the more I kind of ponder it, the more I kind of sit there and I think, I don't even know if it honestly really matters if there is a power team for the Big 12 in college football. I don't know if there almost needs to be one. I think what probably needs to happen more is just for the conference to go into the college football playoff and get wins. I mean, just think about it last year. So last year, of course, Arizona State was picked to finish last in the conference in a poll. That they didn't do this year, obviously. We've talked about that tons of times. But Arizona State went there with Sam Leavitt and Cam Scattaboo and put up just a phenomenal fight and pushed Texas to the brink, but UT wins it barely in the end. My point being is that if Arizona State wins that game last year, all of a sudden the Big 12 gains a lot of credibility because they knocked off an SEC team. Now, once again, I'm going to say this. That was a flash. Now everyone outside the Big 12 could say, well, that was a flash in the pan. They got it done. True. But if your Big 12 goes back again this year and wins a first round game against an SEC or a Big 10 team, then you've got something and you're starting to make a trend. So I have really started to believe that I don't know if the Big 12 needs a power. I don't know if it'll be able to gain a power anytime too soon because I think they'll beat each other up. But I just think the Big 12 needs more wins in the college football playoff. That, I think, is the most important thing. They're going to have at least a team in every single year because they are guaranteed a spot. No matter what the playoff format is, if it stays at 12, they've got a spot there guaranteed, just like they did last year. If it jumps up more, they've got a spot guaranteed. If it jumps to 16, I should say, in this 5+11 model, they'll have a spot guaranteed there. No guarantee they get another spot, but they have a spot there. And then if it goes for some other reason, everybody changes their mind, and it goes to the 4-4-2, whatever that combination code is that the Big Ten thinks, then they've got 2 guaranteed spots. But to me, it doesn't matter as much as if no matter if you get one team or three teams or how many teams you think you can get in there, if you win. That is how the SEC became the most powerful conference in football. It was not done overnight. It was done over the course of multiple years of not only beating teams in non-conference games, but beating them in bowl games, and more importantly, winning national championships. And in the case of the college football playoff, I'm not saying the Big 12 has to win national championships. That would help a ton. Yes, it would. But the Big 12 just needs to go there and win a game or two each year in the college football playoff. And if it wins a national championship, great. But it just needs to go there and win a game in the CFP consistently, and it's going to change the outlook of that league to maybe to the point to where it becomes on equal playing field with the Big 12 and the SEC, or the Big 10 and the SEC. And then it could, like I said, it will really gain a lot of power if it goes there and it wins a national championship or a couple over the next, let's say, the next 5 to 10 years. I think that's what needs to happen, because the SEC is still considered probably the top dog in football, but it's not as far of a leader as it used to be, because the Big 10 has won back-to-back national championships in college football, which means the Big 10 is gaining strength. The Big 12 can gain strength and put itself up in the conversation by winning games in the CFP, and certainly more by going out there and possibly winning a national championship. I don't know if that's going to, I don't know. I'm not saying that's going to happen. No, not saying that. I don't know. Is it possible? Absolutely. Anything is. But I think that if you want the Big 12 to have more respect, which means I think more respect leads to more spots in the top 16 or 12, meaning more spots in the playoff, which means more opportunities to win games. You're going to have to win games in the CFP, and it starts with winning that first game, that guaranteed game that you get by being a Big 12 football champion. In the case of Arizona State versus Texas last year, I think that is, I think personally that is the most important thing when it comes for Big 12 football. Now, once again, I'm sure that there are people out there that would say, no, Ross, it'd be better if there's just a team that comes out there and is a power team and wins a bunch of, and if it is a power team and they go out there and, they win consecutive Big 12 titles and they go on the college football playoff and they win multiple games and maybe even win a national title once in there, that will change it too. I just don't know if that's possible in the picture that is the Big 12 right now. But I think it is way more possible for the Big 12 to get a team or two in every year that goes in the college football playoff and wins a game every year at the CFP. And that will help change the look of the league, the thoughts of the league from outside of the Big 12. It will give them more respect amongst its peers, where I think right now the SEC and the Big 10 just sit there up in their perch and are making all the rules about college football and college athletics. And the Big 12, I think, would love to be a part of that conversation. The ACC would love to be part of that conversation, but they're just kind of there riding the coattails of the Big 12 and the Big 10 and the SEC. So, like I said, I think it would be important this year if the Big 12, whatever team, if it's Kansas State, for example, if Avery Johnson gets hot and his team is great and they find a way to make it into the college football playoff by winning the Big 12, or maybe them and another team that had a really, really good year, two teams separate themselves and they both make it in the CFP. If one of them or both of them finds a way to get a win in the college football playoff bracket and do it against some bigger opponents like the SEC or the Big 10, all of a sudden you have a lot more going for you when it comes to respect of the league. And so I think, once again, I think, in my opinion, getting wins in the college football playoff is going to change the perception. There we go. Change the perception of the Big 12 conference. So I look forward to seeing how that ends up turning out here in the coming months and years. But I believe it will be easier and more attainable to just get wins in the college football playoff than to become a powerful team. And you could probably do it a little bit quicker too. As every year you could prove it, where a power team's going to need to take a couple, 2, 3, 4, 5 years to get a true power coming out of the Big 12. All right, it is 7:25 Mountain, 8:25 Sunshine. We're going to take an early break here on this Tuesday because, once again, we're going to visit with Kyle Doporowski of Keisha, the assistant executive director, as he joined me yesterday to discuss the changes to state basketball and the reasoning for that. That is next. Stick around. You're listening to The Morning Blitz.
Hi, Grandpa. This is Jay.
50 unread messages. Emergency. Great investment opportunity.
Each year, more than 3.5 million older adults are victims of financial exploitation in the U.S. Many are afraid to report it, but taking action prevents additional victims. Here's what you can do. Stop. Don't interact with the scammers. Verify the source with a trusted person and report it right away if you think you've been scammed. Remember, stop, verify, report.
Sponsored by Kansas DCF and KDADS and aired in cooperation with the Kansas Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Are pests making your home or business uncomfortable? Call Pestaway in Goodland, Kansas, serving all of Northwest Kansas. They provide top-notch pest control services to keep your space safe and pest-free. From ants to rodents, termites to spiders, our expert team is here to help with effective, safe, and affordable pest control solutions. Don't wait. Call Pestaway today at 785-728-7166 for fast, reliable service. Your home or business deserves the best protection.
It's time for a check of the markets with the Anderson Trade Group on the Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio Network.
Good morning. This is Tom Saluda with the Anderson Trade Group with your overnight market report on July the 15th. September corn was down 4 at $3.96. March corn down 4 at $4.30.5, and May corn down 4 at $4.41. August soybeans down 1.5 at $9.99. Sep soybeans down 1 at $9.92, and no soybeans unchanged at $10.06. Kansas City hard red winter wheat September was down 2 at $5.21. Dees down 2.5 at $5.42.5, and March down 3 at $5.64. The Dow Jones is currently down 40 points at 44,463. S&P is up 26 points at 6,337. NASDAQ is up 167 points at 23,202. Gold is slightly down at 33.57, and crude oil is unchanged at 66.90 a barrel. If you're out in the Colorado area and have any grain to market or risk management questions, please call John Hanke or John Stiles at 970-744-4484, or you can call the Overland Park office, myself, Tom Saludo, Jared Law, or Tyler Ghosh at 913-748-3000. Thank you.
The Anderson Trade Group, proud market partners with Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio. Find out more at andersongrain.com. The risk of loss through trading futures and or options is substantial, and each investor and or trader must consider whether this is a suitable investment. Past performance, whether actual or indicated, is not indicative of future results. The Anderson Trade Group has no guarantee that the advice given will result in profitable trades.
Farmers and ranchers, are you looking to sell your equipment at auction for zero fees and zero commissions? Well, then you need to check out Hayden Outdoors' new online equipment auction platform. You can list your equipment in our monthly online auctions using our easy-to-use platform, and you don't pay any fees or commissions. Visit HaydenOutdoors.com to learn more. That's HaydenOutdoors.com.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, and cleaner American fuel. This message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
They say seeing is believing, and nothing catches the eye like the 9.5 bushel per acre yield advantage of Revitec fungicide over other fungicides. But don't just take our word for it. See it for yourself. Run a comparison of Revitec fungicide. Enter the Real Results Yield Challenge and experience the difference it makes in your fields. And when you share your experience with us, you'll get a chance to win a 2-year lease on a new truck. Sign up at yieldchallenge.basf.us. No purchase necessary. See official rules for details. Always read and follow label directions.
Want to be part of the Morning Blitz?
Sometime I'll give you a piece of my mind, like right now.
Send your thoughts to the F&B Bank text line at 785-899-2222.
Just before the bottom of the hour on this Tuesday morning. Once again, glad you're with us. Going to be a toasty one today. Temperatures expected to reach the mid-90s, maybe even triple digits in some spots, and then a cool down starting tomorrow. Another crack at your weather forecast there. And don't forget, NWKSradio.net, place to go. Not only can listen to your favorite radio stations here in Northwest Kansas, but you can also, of course, find great news and information there as well. So like I mentioned off the top of the show, on Friday, we had a long discussion talking about Keisha making changes to the state basketball tournament format. And I admit there were some things that I thought looked interesting, to say the least, and voiced my opinion on it. And it was able to reach the ears of one of the Keisha executive or assistant executive directors. And he reached out to me on, I think it was Saturday, through an email saying he'd be willing to come on the show and visit. And I said, that'd be great. His schedule is very busy in the mornings. So Kyle Dolporowski was able to squeeze me in yesterday after the show and do a recorded interview. And so once again, this is an interview from yesterday with Kyle Dolporowski of Keisha, the assistant executive director, talking about the changes to the state basketball tournament coming up here for 26, 27 and beyond, and the reasons for that, and how they came to those decisions. Last week, we had a conversation, a segment talking about Keisha making changes to the state basketball tournaments. And so here to give us some more context on that, from the Keisha side of things, we're pleased to be joined by one of the assistant executive directors there at Keisha, Kyle Dolporowski, who's joining us now on the Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware hotline today. Kyle, thank you so much for taking some time. Really appreciate you having the conversation with us.
Good morning, Ross. Excited to be with you. Long-time listener, so to speak, first-time caller, I suppose, but have enjoyed your work in the short time that I've been back in Kansas. And we have similar backgrounds, and there's nothing better for me than on a Friday night or Tuesday night for high school basketball when I'm out and about going to games. I tune in, whether it's on the phone or the regular radio, to hear folks just like you all across the state break down the games and the scores and their different things. So I'm really excited to visit with you for the first time here today, and Northwest Kansas is fortunate to have you do what you do.
Well, Kyle, thank you so much for the kind words. I want to jump into just kind of why is Keisha decided to change up the state basketball tournament? Because, and once again, I don't have context from all the state sites. I've been to multiple, not all of them, at different classifications, most recently spending a lot of time at 3A, which has been a blast. But why has Keisha decided to make changes to their state basketball tournaments?
Great question, Ross. So going back a couple of years ago, our executive director, Bill Faflick, goes to 8 or 9 different places around the state each October. And there's a number of questions that he asked the member schools, and they could vary, from activity to activity, or maybe it's a calendar issue, or just taking a straw poll, so to speak, on some kind of concept. Well, one of the questions a couple of years ago, and this was not long after I started in this role, was should the state basketball tournament be combined in classes? And every single class, 1A through 6A, supported that concept with the yes vote. So of course, then you add up all the classes together, and then it was well over the 50%. So that's what got the conversation started. And in those regional meetings, just because something is supported doesn't mean it's automatically going to happen. But that's what started the conversation in earnest. Was a couple of years ago, and you have seen out in your area, at Weskin, so to speak, what Mark has done with football and what Rod has done with soccer, of starting to combine those state championship sites as well. This last year, we had both 8-player divisions and the 6-player division at Greensburg, Kiowa County on the same day. So basketball is following suit with some of the other activities that we've had. But that's what got the conversation started a couple of years ago, and I'm sure we'll talk about the next couple of years up until the announcement last week here in the next few minutes.
Kyle, I was curious if what's gone on, with combining just a couple classifications, does that it almost like kind of scratches at the surface? I mean, is there a within Keisha, is there something like, if we could, we'd love to have more classes come together so that we could get more greater environments and get more classifications in schools playing in front of a single audience. I feel like this is just kind of like scratching the surface. Is that the way Keisha kind of feels too?
Yeah, I think that's the main reason that the membership wanted to combine classes was to do that. And you being a Nebraska native, understand and have been to the Nebraska State Tournament, and they play boys and girls at different weeks. But how awesome is it that there's 6 state championship games on the same court under the same roof on the same day. I mean, that atmosphere is unbelievable. And I was fortunate enough to live and work in Lincoln for 4 years and saw that firsthand and covered it probably just like you did several years before you. But man, what a great environment. So, that was something that I kind of took note of and always remembered going up there. And I'd only lived in Kansas my whole life up to that point where, 6A was over here, 5A was over there, et cetera. And to have it all be at one place, I thought was tremendous. And it was ironic that coming back upon this job, about 20 years after the time frame that I just referenced, the membership wanted to start exploring that. So to me, it's really exciting. I think the atmosphere will be great. The environment will be fantastic for the teams, the coaches, the school communities, the bands, the cheerleaders, obviously the media as well. So we think it'll be great. Obviously, there's a trade-off on the other side that I'm sure we'll get into, but I think that's the main reason why the membership wanted to take a look at it. It's the reason I'm excited about it is we'll have at least 4 state championship games on the same day, on the same court, under the same roof.
I know it would be really difficult to do, and so I get it. But has there ever been talks about, having the championship games played at like Allen Fieldhouse or Bramlage? Because I just felt like that was one thing being a Nebraska kid. It was so cool that you got to play on the arena or the floor of the biggest team and school in the state.
Yes, absolutely is the short answer. One thing to remember, though, unlike Nebraska, where they play girls before the boys in terms of weeks, like girls is 1 week and boys is the next, and we have 7 classes where Nebraska only has 6, that means there's 14 state championship games that need to be played on the same day. So there's no way that you can do that at the same place. I mean, you're not going to do it. So potentially looking to do it at 2, maybe 7 and 7 would be a way to go. And I think that would be phenomenal if we were ever able to make that happen.
Once again, we are pleased to be joined on the Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware hotline by Assistant Executive Director at Acacia, Kyle Doporowski. We're pleased to have him come and talk about the news that Acacia has decided to change state basketball formats and things of that sort. I know one big question that's going to be out here, Kyle, for a lot of us is that, the last couple of years, Colby was a site that got to host some of the smaller divisions. And that's not the case for the next couple of years. I'm curious what Acacia thinks about the time at Colby and what it might look like for the future for Colby in hosting an event.
So first off, you're talking to the guy who made the decision to take a state tournament to Colby, and you can imagine.
We thank you, Kyle. Thank you very much.
That was not maybe as popular in some other parts of the state, but as I told them, the highway runs both ways. And that, provided some chuckles. But yeah, I mean, you talk about an unbelievable job in Northwest Kansas, and I don't want to start naming names, but James Ferris and Heather and Jeremy Dietz and the city manager, Ron Alexander. I mean, they did a phenomenal job. Chad Jones with the media side of things. The mayor at Colby was literally picking up trash, on the bleachers in between games or at the end of the day. I was out there for the first ever state basketball tournament day. And then I float around in my role. I try to get to a different spot every day. But I was there, and I mean, man, from the hospitality room to the separate spaces for the officials, which was greatly appreciated. And the officials were super thankful for that. I mean, the facility in and of itself, the locker room space was really good. So the Northwest Kansas community, Colby specifically, really did a fantastic job the couple of years that they hosted. So I just want to start with that and then follow it up with what we were just talking about. When you go from 7 sites down to 4, it's a math problem, right? And that was the biggest heartburn for me personally in this entire process, because we have great hosts, great people, great communities, and instead of having 7 of them host, they all want to host, they all do a great job, and that doesn't mean we haven't had issues at places, because we have, but on the whole, overall, all 7 have done a very good job. And you just can't do that when you start combining classes now. So we're going from 7 to 4, and that was it was the most painful call I had was to James at the Colby Event Center. I wanted him to hear it from me before he heard it from anybody else. And it wasn't anything that Colby didn't do. It's just a geography, really a geography topic that it came down to. And you'll notice from at least for the semifinals and final sites, those are more centrally located. The quarterfinals, and I know you're probably going to ask about that in a separate question, so I'll leave that there. But you'll notice the semifinal and final sites are pretty centrally located within the state.
Once again, Kyle Doborowski is our guest here from Acacia, talking about the new state basketball formats. Yes, you led right into my next question, talking about quarterfinals. Can you kind of give me the thought on and the process of how you came to this quarterfinal, of breaking away the quarterfinal from the state tournament, and kind of why that all took place, and then kind of the reasons for it, and how you came up with the arenas that you did to host the quarterfinal spots here coming up in 2026?
Going back to over a year ago when the executive board voted to combine classes, prior to that, I had visited with the state sites, and all of them were supportive of combining classes because it made more sense to them for a lot of the same reasons we covered a few moments ago. And then when it really got down to the nuts and bolts of what that would look like, well, if we do it like we have traditionally done it, Goodland, Colby, those schools, obviously 3A schools, go into Hutch, right? And Hutchinson was, in the group of schools that was, or the group of hosts that, didn't feel like, hosting 8 games in a day for 4 days in a row, coming from a place where we were hosting 4, basically doubling what they were doing for 4 days in a row. That would be really difficult to do, and with the staff and the volunteers that they rely on to do an unbelievable job there. I mean, you obviously been there the last couple of years, and you've seen it firsthand, the tremendous job that they do, and much more than just Hutchinson. Several of our hosts were kind of talking amongst themselves, saying, "Man, I don't know how we can do 8 games in a row for 4 days in a row." And so then we as a staff and the executive board took that feedback and said, "Okay, 8 games in a row for 4 days in a row is not going to work, but we still have 112 games that we need to figure out. So what would it look like if we stretch out the calendar and start on Tuesday?" So that's really when this detached quarterfinal model started to take shape. Was, okay, well, what would it look like then to play Tuesday and Wednesday quarterfinals at a site that may or may not be where the schools play their semifinals and finals? And that model really seemed to be the best in terms of, it's not going to be 8 games per day. The workload will be manageable. But then Hutchinson's a great example, and you can totally relate to this with Northwest Tech and Colby Community College as well. Their playoffs are that Tuesday, right? So you'll see on the list of quarterfinals, Hutchinson is not listed as a quarterfinal host because, traditionally, and just like, every college athletic director, they are planning on their teams playing on that Tuesday. So, okay, how did we then figure out where those quarterfinals are going to be was the second part of your question. And you will notice that there is another community college on the list. They are Division II in the Jayhawk, and you are much more versed, even though I'm a KJCCC product. But that was a long time ago. But you can explain a little bit more maybe on the calendar better at a later time to your audience. But KCKCC is a Division II school, so their playoff structure and dates are different. So it worked for them. Plus, there's that's the most densely populated part of the state. We have a tremendous amount of schools up there in our membership. So we needed to have something in that area directly because we know there's going to be numerous top seed hosts or top seeds within the state. It would be highly unlikely there wouldn't be. So we had to go find somewhere in the KC metro area. And they were the ones that we decided upon. And, they've got a new court that is just finished, and they're redoing their lobby. They're redoing their team entrance and their officials entrance. So that'll be a great site for us. But that's how the 7 were decided. And then I want to, my last point here, and I know I'm kind of going on and on, so sorry, bear with me. Obviously, and you had referenced last week a hole in Northwest Kansas, and want to, kind of address that a little bit. Again, going back to what I said, unfortunately, our boss, Bill, supported our decision to go to Colby a couple of years ago in Northwest Kansas with a state tournament. so when you start talking about the Colby Event Center as a quarterfinal site host, that a couple of things going on there. Number one, it's Colby High School's home court. So what happens if and when they're a top 4 seed? Are they playing on their home court at the state tournament? I'm not sure that's the best thing. Number two is there's, you know, in terms of geography around the state, and you know this better than anybody, I mean, there's not as many member schools around Colby as there is, say, in Salina or Hutchinson or even Dodge City per se. And then lastly, when you start talking about the distance that schools would have to travel. So, and I think it happened, and I can't remember the opponent, maybe it was Frontenac or Girard or somebody like that. Well, what would happen if Goodland or Colby or somebody out there, and I know I'm talking mainly in 3A terms right now, and there's other classifications represented in your listening area, but if Frontenac would have to travel to the Colby Event Center on a Tuesday night as the lower seed, and let's say, you know what, they play the best game they've played, and, you know, it doesn't matter whether it's Goodland or Colby or whoever the top seed would be, you know, had an off game, and, you know, from a seed perspective, that game would be an upset. Then that team from Southeast Kansas would have to go back home and then prepare for the state semifinals, which would be 48 hours later. And maybe they would just go to the semifinals and final site. Who knows? But there are, and that's really where the 250-mile thought came from, is, okay, we'll play these sites, we'll play these quarterfinal games at sites that are close to the home seed, as long as the lower seed doesn't have to travel 250 or more miles. And the line of that 250 to the Colby Event Center was just further out than any of our other hosts. So those are the reasons that the Colby Event Center was not selected as a semifinal host for the next couple of years. And again, you know, same thing with the Colby Community College. Now, I had talked to James directly about that, and they were willing to work with us. But I mean, think about what's going on with the women's program there with Darren Spence, who I've known for a long time. I mean, he's really doing a great job with that women's program and the men's program. But if you had a Colby Community College playoff game or two on the same day as we're trying to play state quarterfinals, that would be difficult to do. And I think we probably would have gotten there, but that was some of the conversation I had with James at the Colby Event Center around the quarterfinals.
Once again, Kyle Dolporowski is our guest here from Keisha, talking about the new state basketball. At the same time, though, Kyle, my biggest thing, okay, so it's not Colby, that's fine. Why can't there be? There is really nothing in Northwest Kansas, if we're being completely honest. There's nothing in Hayes, which I would consider Northwest Kansas to an extent. I understand that Gross might be with Division II basketball. I get that might be busy, but I mean, even if it's playing at a bigger high school, like at Hayes High or something like that, how come there is not a single arena or a site in Northwest Kansas, even if it's around the Hayes area, that would work? So that, for example, I know a few years ago, Goodland girls played Southeast of Saline in the first round of the quarterfinal basketball tournament. Well, if Southeast of Saline or whatever, if Goodland was the higher seed in that case, which I think they were, they'd have to go to Salina, the Pizza Event Center, and Southeast Saline would have to meet them there. That'd almost be a home game for them. Get what I'm saying to an extent?
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, and that's a great question. A couple of things on that. So the first of which you're right about Fort Hays State. Obviously, they have been a traditional host up until about 10 years or so ago. And this preceded my time, but I think there was a year, and it might have been maybe, well, I don't even want to say, but your listeners probably remember, where we were planning to host a state tournament there. And I think the Tiger women were having a great season. And ultimately, the week of the state tournament, our staff then had to pivot. And I think that tournament got switched and played at the Civic Center in Dodge City. And since then, Fort Hays, and to their credit, I mean, you know, they have to look out for their own teams first, which, you know, we totally understand that and respect that. But that's the primary reason that our state basketball tournaments haven't been at Hays lately. And then the second is part of that feedback mechanism that we started with several minutes ago, was that our membership did not want to play a state tournament game at a high school, even if it were a larger school, a larger high school, like you talk about Hayes High or somebody like that, with smaller schools coming there. They wanted, the membership wanted the state basketball tournament to be played at kind of flat, quote unquote neutral sites or college sites. So those are a couple of things to answer your question. Now, let me also add to that. You are exactly right in the fact that in this quarterfinal model, the lower seed may be closer to home than the higher seed. However, with that being said, it'll be, most of the time it will work out where it'll be a shorter trip for the higher seed than where they would have been in their traditional sites. Now, in Goodland's case, obviously that's where our listeners are right now. That's a great example of what you just laid out, and that could absolutely happen 100%. You are 100% accurate with that assessment.
Well, I think you can probably just understand, I guess, just the not the concern, but maybe the frustration is that if you're a school out here, it doesn't matter if you're St. Francis or Rollins County or wherever, you really don't get, if you do have a great season and you're in the state tournament, you're in the quarterfinals, you're still going to have to road trip it a long ways. Not saying the opponent wouldn't, but there's a chance they might be a lot closer than you are, even though you're a higher seed. I think that's kind of the frustrating thing. I know that's nothing that Case you can do about not having an arena in Hayes or somewhere else that could host it, but that just seems tough, a tough break for Northwest Kansas.
Yeah, and that's a very good point, and totally understand that for sure. And again, and not to repeat the last several minutes of our conversation, but yeah, totally understand that. And that was, maybe with the exception of 1A when it was in Hayes, and obviously Dodge City has been a very good host in Western Kansas, although that's not Northwest Kansas, as you pointed out. Those schools were going a long ways anyway to play. But we're hopeful that in this model that the top seed most of the time will have a shorter trip than they would have in their traditional sites, and that may or may not have been the case. Obviously, last year, right, 1A Division II, was it Dighton? Maybe it's not very far from Dighton to Colby compared to some other places in the state. So totally understand that. And it's really hard to find a one size fits all. But again, going back to the very beginning of the conversation, that the membership wanted to take a look at combining classes through all of the different dominoes and the conversations that transpired over the last couple of years. This is where we ended up.
Okay, maybe a dumb question here, maybe not. I don't know. You're talking about starting quarterfinals, a couple days earlier at some neutral sites across. How come they just wouldn't start earlier in the week and have the tournaments ran at one site, for example, at Hutch, 3A and 4A, start earlier Tuesday and go start Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all through that?
Yeah, so same thing we said a few minutes ago. Hutch Junior College, Hutch Community College has their own teams that play on their own court on Tuesday night. So that site, for instance, they were not. We didn't even talk to them about. Well, we did talk to them, but obviously it didn't last very long because, they're going to host probably a men's and a women's game. If you look back, at least in recent history, it was not that long ago, just the season before the one that just ended. I think their women were the junior college national champions. So, they're planning on hosting their own games on that Tuesday, which obviously knocks the sports arena out on Tuesday. And that's what's so hard about all of this, Ross, is every facility has their own nuance and their own things that they are working with and dealing with. And we totally respect all of that. And it would certainly be easier if the High School Activities Association owned and controlled our own facilities, but we don't. So we work with hosts and we work within the parameters that they give us.
Once again, Kyle Doborowski is our guest here on the Morning Blitz on the Hoover Lumber Hardware Hotline. I got one more before I let you go, Kyle, and it's off of this topic. It's actually about the shot clock. Can you talk about the kind of the process that has gone into getting the shot clock put into high school basketball? Where you kind of sit and how you think things are going in that area?
Several years ago, the NFHS Rules Committee made it by state adoption, it being the shot clock. So, right away, Iowa jumped in on it, and this is going back maybe 5 or so years. This predated my time in the office, but it was a conversation that was pretty red hot when I got here already. And the short answer is, I think it was in the January 2024 executive board meeting, I believe, that was when the 1-year trial pilot was hatched. And obviously we just had a season with that. And one thing that was probably the most interesting and maybe the most influential in where we're headed now with the shot clock is this last season that we just got done with. And your listeners know one of the best ways to track schedules and scores for high school basketball in our state is the Keisha website, and the schools themselves go in and enter those scores. So we knew the list of the schools that were opting into the 1-year trial pilot because they had to do it all season long for their home games, both boys and girls. So when there was a game on that court, at least one of the schools, and we wanted both of them to, but at least one of the schools would go on and complete a 4-question survey before it was about, the 4 questions were about the shot clock, before that score would even could be posted or seen publicly. And the best question was how many shot clock stoppages were there in the state of Kansas? And we had over 3,000 responses to that because there were a lot of games with shot clocks, and 93% of those 3,000 plus games had either 0 or 1 stoppages related to a shot clock issue. And so that really was a telling statistic of, can we as a state even operate this? And we proved that we can. So therefore the executive board, it was in their last meeting or maybe the meeting before that, made the decision for 4, 5, and 6A for this coming school year. If schools in those classifications are going to host a home game, then a shot clock is required, and then 2A and 3A the following year, and then 1A the following year after that. So that's kind of a quick lay of the land. I'm not sure that answered your question, but that's some shot clock information for you.
That does very well. Thank you, Kyle. Kyle Doporowski, once again, our guest from Keisha. Really appreciate taking some time, Kyle, and laying the land out for us on what's going on with state basketball and basketball as a whole. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem, Ross. Anytime. Keep up the great work.
Once again, great conversation with Kyle Doporowski. If you miss him, make sure you go back and check out the podcast. I'll have a couple quick thoughts in the walk-off when we get back here on the Morning Blitz. We wrap up a show on a Tuesday, excuse me.
Big deals are rolling at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Drive off in a 25 GMC Sierra 1500 with $3,750 purchase allowance or 0% APR for 36 months and no payments for 90 days. Upgrade to the Sierra 1500 Denali and get up to $5,750 off or 0% for 36 months. Or go big with the Sierra 3500 Pro. $2,750 off or 3.9% for 48 months. Don't wait. Stop by Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland today or shop online at hurlchev.com.
Summer is heating up, and Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware in Goodland and Colby has everything you need to make the most of it. Tame that lawn with top-notch weed and feed from Ultimate Fertilizer, and keep those bugs away with powerful pesticides. Plus, Ego mower, blowers, and trimmers to get that job done fast. Fire up some summer flavor with a Traeger grill or a Blackstone griddle, and if you're building a fence or even fixing a sprinkler, they've got the building materials and supplies to keep your projects moving. Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware, your summer project headquarters.
At FNB Bank, we know family comes first. Whether you're opening a savings account for your kids, buying a new home, or planning for the future, we're here to help every step of the way. With personalized service and flexible options, we make banking easy for your growing family. FNB Bank, serving families, strengthening communities. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
No one rambles on better than Ross Volkmer
All you do is talk on
the Morning Blitz.
Once again, I'd like to thank Kyle Doporowski for reaching out to me. I did not reach out to him. He reached out to me. He heard our show and wanted to come on the show and give his side of things from Keisha, and I appreciate him doing that. He made some great points. I came to just a couple conclusions, just kind of from that interview and listening to it again there as it played. It's just an unfortunate set of circumstances for us out here in Northwest Kansas because when Keisha said we're not going to play in high school gyms, no matter how nice they are. I mean, what if Hayes, and I don't know what happened to Hayes, but if Hayes High builds a new basketball arena and it's really nice, that don't count because it's a high school basketball arena. It has to be a college arena. And the problem is, if you take out the Max, the event center, and then go further, and the next college arena is in Hayes, and Hayes says Grossmore Coliseum is not open for business to do this because we want to be available for postseason. The next available arena is in Salina. It's just an unfortunate set of circumstances for Northwest Kansas schools because there's not enough collegiate, quote unquote, arenas for that to happen. That's just an unfortunate deal that there's not much you can do. That's how the rules were made. It'd be different if they'd say, well, we could play at a really big high school arena or something like that, but they're not going to allow that to happen. So tough break for Northwest Kansas schools, and I guess we'll continue to do what we do, and that's put in a lot of time behind the windshield of a vehicle, particularly for state basketball stuff. So we'll see. And like I said, I don't know. There's a new state tournament format. Yeah, adding a classification. Yeah, it dips your toe in the pool. It's not like you get to watch the best play all throughout the entire week. And I know it's almost an impossible thing to do with doing it all in 1 week. But he's right. Nebraska does it the right way, and it's pretty darn cool to get to see all the different classifications and stuff. They get to do that. All right, no time to get to Greg Sank. We'll have to push that till tomorrow. We're up against the clock. We are on to the walk-off here.
And back lifts his ball deep to right. How about a walk-off Brady? Thomas to the 10. Denver's going on to New England. They win it on the first play of overtime. Mahomes flings it. It's there. Hardman. Jackpot. Kansas City.
Former NFL quarterback Teddy Bridgewater has been suspended from his position as a high school football coach at Miami Northwestern for allegedly providing impermissible benefits to his players. He says he's not leaving after he led Miami Northwestern to a Class 3A state championship in his first season. But Bridgewater was out there trying to help kids. Things that I've read, he was paying for kids to get physical therapy treatment to get better. Equipment, because their equipment was not great. He was trying to help the kids have a better experience at the high school level, and then got suspended for it. Look, I know there are rules, and he broke those rules, but sometimes the rules are dumb. He's trying to help out kids that I'm guessing are not as well off as some other kids in the Miami area. The thing about the treatment thing just drives me nuts. I want the kids to be healthy and have a good experience, and suspend them and let them go for that. I don't know. Sad deal. Anyway, thanks again to Kyle Doporalski. Thanks again to you for tuning in. Thanks for the comments on the interview. It was a good one. Once again, if you missed any of the interview with Kyle Doporalski on Keisha and state basketball tournament changes, it'll be up on the podcast page here shortly. Have yourself a great Tuesday. See you back here again tomorrow in 23 hours. It's been the Blitz.
Classic rock plays here. This is Rocket 102.5. KKCI Goodland.